Commander Jack Morrison stood at the observation window of Sentinel-9, watching the stars stretch across the darkness of space. He had been stationed on this orbital platform for 6 years now, monitoring signals from across the galaxy. Every day brought new messages, new diplomatic talks, and new conversations between the alien civilizations that made up the Galactic Council. And every day Earth remained silent. It had been 147 years since first contact. Jack remembered learning about it in school, how the Council ships had appeared near Mars broadcasting messages of peace and friendship. They invited humanity to join their alliance, to trade technology and knowledge, to become part of the galactic community. Earth's leaders had listened carefully to everything the aliens said. Then they politely declined the invitation. The Council had been surprised. Most species jumped at the chance to join their prestigious alliance. But Earth said no, not with anger or fear, just a simple no. They would watch and learn, but they would not join. Not yet. Lieutenant Kate Palmer walked over to Jack's station, carrying a data pad filled with the day's intercepted communications. She was young, only 28, but she had a gift for languages. She could understand all 12 of the Council's major species now, and dozens of their regional dialects. Another invitation came through today, Kate said, showing him the message, this time from the Etherian Collective. They're offering trade agreements and technology sharing. Same as always, Jack nodded without surprise. What did Command say? Same as always. Polite refusal. We'll continue to observe but not participate. Kate sat down at her console, pulling up star maps showing Council territory. You know, they probably think we're afraid of them. Or maybe just stupid. Let them think whatever they want, Jack replied. He brought up his own screens showing graphs and data streams. We have 23 observation posts throughout this sector alone. We've mapped every Council trade route, every military patrol pattern, every communication relay. We know which species are allies and which ones barely tolerate each other. We know their technologies, their weapons, their weaknesses. Kate smiled slightly. And they think we're just sitting here on our little planet too scared to come out. Ben Crawford, the chief engineer, joined them from the equipment bay. He was older than both of them, with gray hair and a face lined from years of service. Ben had been with Sentinel-9 since it was first built, back when Earth's space presence was much smaller. Just finished the upgrades to the sensor array, Ben announced. We can now pick up encrypted military channels from twice as far away. The Council has no idea we can hear their classified communications. Jack pulled up a priority message from Earth Command. Good timing. Defense Coordinator Hayes wants a full report on Council military capabilities by next month. Every ship class, every weapon system, every defensive installation. We'll have it ready, Ben assured him. Though I have to wonder what they're planning to do with all this information. That was the question everyone asked, but nobody answered. For nearly a century and a half, Earth had been gathering intelligence on the Galactic Council. Thousands of people like Jack, Kate, and Ben worked in observation posts, research facilities, and intelligence centers across Earth's solar system. They collected every piece of information they could find about the Council and its member species, but Earth never acted on that information. They just kept watching, kept learning, and kept building. The building part was what interested Jack most. Out in the Kuiper Belt, beyond Neptune's orbit, massive shipyards operated in complete secrecy. Earth had constructed hundreds of warships out there, hidden from the Council's sensors by the natural chaos of the belt's ice and rock. Advanced defensive platforms orbited every human colony. Research teams developed new weapons, new shields, and new faster-than-light drives based on everything they had learned from observing Council technology. Earth was preparing for something. Everyone who worked in defense knew it, even if they didn't know exactly what or when. Kate's console beeped with a new intercept. She listened through her headset, her expression growing more interested. Council meeting on Keth Prime next week. They're discussing territorial expansion in the Outer Rim. Anything about Earth? Jack asked. Not yet. But they are talking about systems near our space. The Tornak hegemony wants to expand their mining operations. They're looking at unclaimed systems within 50 light-years of Sol. Ben frowned. 50 light-years? That's practically our backyard. Technically, we've only claimed our solar system, Kate pointed out. Everything beyond that is open territory according to Council law. We never filed any expansion claims. Because we didn't want to attract attention, Jack said. He made a note in his report log. Flag this for Command. They'll want to know if the Council is planning to move into nearby systems. The truth was, Earth had already colonized or surveyed most of the systems within 50 light-years of home. Small research outposts, mining operations, and listening stations dotted the region, but all of these were hidden, operating under strict stealth protocols. To the Council, it looked like Earth had barely left its own solar system. That was exactly what Earth wanted them to think. Lisa Hayes had designed this strategy decades ago, when she first became defense coordinator. Jack had met her once during a briefing at Earth Command in Geneva. She was a brilliant woman, sharp-eyed and strategic in her thinking. She believed that humanity's best weapon was being underestimated. "Let them think we're weak," she had told the assembled officers. "Let them think we're afraid or backwards. Every day they underestimate us is another day we get stronger. When the time comes, and it will come, we need to be so far ahead that they never see us coming." Jack believed she was right. The Galactic Council had grown comfortable with their dominance. They were used to being the strongest, the most advanced, the ones in control. They made rules that benefited themselves and expected everyone else to follow. Smaller civilizations had no choice but to accept Council terms or be left behind. But Earth had a choice. They chose to wait. "Another ship just jumped into the system," Ben called out, checking his sensors. "Council merchant vessel, Pelthic Registry. Standard cargo run to the Etherian colonies." Jack watched the ship's course on his display. It would pass within a few million kilometers of Sentinel-9, but the station's stealth systems would keep them invisible. The Council ship had no idea humans were watching. Kate pulled up the ship's communication logs. They're broadcasting trading manifest. Looks like industrial equipment and data cores. Nothing unusual. This was the routine they followed every day. Observe, record, analyze. Every piece of information went into Earth's massive intelligence database. Over the decades, humans had built up the most complete picture of the Galactic Council that existed anywhere. They knew things about the Council that even the Council members didn't know about each other. Jack sometimes wondered what it would be like when Earth finally revealed itself. When humanity stopped being silent and showed the galaxy what they had become, it would shock everyone. The Council thought of Earth as a minor civilization, barely worth noticing. They had no idea that humans had been learning from them this whole time. The day shift ended and Jack filed his reports before heading to the station's residential section. Sentinel-9 housed 200 personnel, all dedicated to the observation mission. They rotated back to Earth every 6 months, but many of them, like Jack, kept volunteering for new assignments. This work was important. They all felt it. In the mess hall, Jack joined Kate and Ben for dinner. The food was standard station fare, nothing fancy, but it was better than the old days when everything was dehydrated. "Think we'll ever join the Council?" Kate asked, picking at her meal. "I mean really join them, not just watch from a distance?" Jack considered the question. Maybe, but not on their terms. Not as junior partners begging for acceptance. If Earth joins the Council, it'll be as equals. Or not at all. Ben nodded agreement. That's what all this preparation is about. Making sure we have the strength to demand respect, not ask for it. They finished their meal and returned to their quarters. Jack lay in his bunk thinking about the future. Somewhere out there, perhaps in another observation post or down on Earth itself, plans were being made. Strategies were being refined. Humanity was getting ready for something. Jack didn't know what would trigger it. Maybe the Council would push too far into human space. Maybe they would threaten Earth directly. Or maybe Earth's leaders would simply decide the time was right to step out of the shadows. Whatever happened, Jack knew one thing for certain. The galaxy thought of humans as quiet, cautious, and forgettable. They had no idea what was really happening in the darkness beyond Earth's sun. They didn't know about the shipyards or the weapons or the intelligence network that watched their every move. Earth had stayed silent for 147 years. But silence was not weakness. Silence was preparation. And when Earth finally chose to speak, the entire galaxy would have to listen. Jack closed his eyes and tried to sleep. Tomorrow would bring more intercepts, more data, and more pieces of the puzzle. Every day brought humanity one step closer to whatever was coming. He just hoped that. Ambassador Chris Bennett looked out the window of his transport ship as it approached Keth Prime. The planet was beautiful, with swirling clouds of purple and gold covering vast oceans. This was neutral territory claimed by no single species, where the Galactic Council held their most important meetings. After 147 years of declining invitations, Earth had finally agreed to send an observer to one of these assemblies. Chris felt the weight of that decision. He was the first human to officially attend a council meeting. Everything he said and did would represent all of humanity to the 12 alien civilizations that ruled this part of the galaxy. "First view of Keth Prime, sir," said Emma Rodriguez, his cultural advisor. She sat beside him, her eyes wide with wonder. Emma had studied alien cultures her entire career, but she had never seen any of them in person until now. "It's even more impressive than the images showed." Sam Parker, the security chief, was less impressed. He checked the sensor readings on his datapad, watching for any threats. Sam was former military, trained to expect danger everywhere. 26 council ships in orbit, defensive platforms on 3 of the moons. They're not taking any chances with security. Chris nodded. They have representatives from all 12 member species here. This is one of their most important meetings of the year. Their ship received landing clearance and descended to the capital city. The architecture was unlike anything on Earth, with buildings that seemed to grow from the ground like crystal trees. Thousands of aliens walked the streets representing dozens of different species. Some were humanoid, others were completely different in form. All of them ignored the small human delegation as they made their way to the council chamber. The Grand Assembly Hall was enormous. Chris and his team were directed to the observer section, a small area with seats far from the main floor where the council members sat. It was a clear message about their status. Observers were meant to watch and learn, not participate. "Not exactly the best seats," Emma whispered as they sat down. "It's what we expected," Chris replied. "Earth asked to observe, not participate. Let's just do our job and report back home." The assembly began with formal ceremonies and speeches. Chris listened carefully as each council member took their turn addressing the chamber. He recognized Councilor Prime Thelvan of the Etherian Collective, an ancient being who had served on the council for over 200 years. There was Councilor Shara of the Pelthic Union, known for her sharp intelligence and sharper tongue. And there was Councilor Vrek of the Tornak Hegemony, a large reptilian creature with cold eyes and an aggressive reputation. The first 2 days of meetings covered trade disputes and technology sharing agreements. Chris took notes on everything, knowing that Earth's intelligence services would analyze every detail. Emma recorded cultural observations about how different species interacted. Sam kept watch for any security concerns. On the 3rd day, the topic shifted to territorial expansion. Several council members wanted to discuss claiming new systems in the Outer Rim, areas of space that currently belong to no one. This was what Earth Command had been worried about. The Council's expansion had been moving closer to human space for decades. Councilor Vrek stood to address the assembly. His voice was deep and harsh, translated by the universal language system into words Chris could understand. The Tornak Hegemony proposes opening several primitive systems for colonization. These systems contain valuable resources but are currently occupied by species that lack the technology to properly utilize them. Chris felt a chill run down his spine as Rek displayed a star map. There, highlighted in red, was Earth's solar system. "This system, for example," Rek continued, pointing at Sol, "the humans have barely expanded beyond their home world. They possess basic faster-than-light travel, but have made no territorial claims beyond their single star. This is a waste of valuable space. The Tornak Hegemony requests the right to establish mining operations on the outer worlds of this system." Chris stood up immediately. "I must object to this proposal." The chamber fell silent. All eyes turned to the observer section, where the human ambassador stood alone. It was rare for an observer to speak during assembly sessions. Councilor Vrek looked at Chris with what might have been amusement. "The observer wishes to speak?" "I do," Chris said, keeping his voice steady. "The system you're discussing is Earth's home system. While we haven't filed formal territorial claims with the Council, we consider all planets and moons in our solar system to be under human jurisdiction. We cannot allow foreign mining operations in our space." Vrek's expression changed from amusement to something colder. "Cannot allow? Tell me, human, how many worlds has your species colonized beyond your home world?" "We have colonies on several moons and planets within our system," Chris replied. "Within your system only," Vrek said. "In 147 years since your species achieved faster-than-light travel, you have not claimed a single system beyond your own. You have not established trade relations. You have not contributed to galactic civilization in any meaningful way. You have simply sat in your corner of space and watched." Other council members murmured in agreement. Chris felt his anger rising but forced himself to remain calm. Earth has chosen a careful approach to galactic relations. We have been learning and observing, but that doesn't mean we have no rights to our own space. Counselor Shara stood up, her voice smooth and condescending. Ambassador Bennett, we understand that your species is new to galactic civilization. Perhaps you don't understand how things work here. The Council makes decisions about territorial rights based on capability and contribution. A species that hides in its home system for nearly a century and a half has demonstrated neither. That's not fair, Emma whispered from beside Chris. But she was right to keep quiet. This was Chris's responsibility to handle. Chris tried again. I'm asking the Council to respect Earth's sovereignty over our home system. We're not asking for expansion rights or special treatment, just recognition of what is already ours. Rek laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the chamber. Sovereignty? You have to earn sovereignty in this galaxy, human. You don't get it simply by existing. He turned to address the other Council members. This is exactly the problem with silent species. They sit quietly in the corner, and then they're surprised when the adults make decisions without them. Several Council members laughed at that. Chris felt his face grow hot with embarrassment and anger. He was being mocked in front of the entire Galactic Council, and there was nothing he could do about it. Counselor Prime Thelvan, the ancient Etherian, raised a hand for silence. Ambassador Bennett, the Council appreciates your concerns. However, Counselor Vrek has a point. Earth has had many opportunities to join the galactic community as a full member. You have declined every invitation. You cannot expect the benefits of membership without accepting the responsibilities. I'm not asking for membership benefits, Chris said, trying to keep his voice level. I'm asking for basic respect for our territorial rights. Territorial rights are granted by this Council, Shara said sharply. And this Council has seen no evidence that Earth deserves such rights. You have contributed nothing to galactic civilization. You have shared no technology, offered no trade, provided no assistance to other species. You have simply watched and waited. That is not how civilized species behave. Chris opened his mouth to respond, but Rek cut him off with a dismissive wave. Enough of this. The human has had his chance to speak. Silent species have no voice in Council matters. That is the price of isolation. The chamber erupted in agreement. Even species that Chris thought might be more sympathetic seemed to accept this reasoning. Earth had been silent for so long that the Council felt no obligation to consider their concerns. Counselor Prime Thelvan called for order. The Council will table Counselor Vrek's proposal for further review. We will examine the legal and practical implications before making a final decision. This matter will be revisited in 3 standard months. Chris felt a small relief. At least they hadn't approved it immediately. But he knew what further review meant. The Council would discuss it behind closed doors, and Earth would have no voice in those discussions. He tried one more time. I request that my formal objection be entered into the Council record. Earth does not consent to any foreign operations in our solar system. Thelvan looked at Chris with something that might have been pity. Ambassador Bennett, you are here as an observer, not a Council member. Observers' statements are not entered into the official record. That privilege is reserved for full Council members only. Then I request that Earth be considered for full membership, Chris said, knowing even as he spoke that it was futile. Shara actually laughed at that. Membership? You've declined membership for nearly 150 years, and now you want it because we're discussing using unused space in your system? That's not how this works, Ambassador. Perhaps if your species had shown more interest in joining civilized society earlier, you would have a voice now. But you chose silence. You must live with the consequences of that choice. Vrek smiled, showing sharp teeth. Perhaps the humans are simply not intelligent enough to understand civilized discourse. Some species reach. 24 hours after Ambassador Bennett returned to Earth, every communication channel in the galaxy received the same transmission. It appeared simultaneously on military frequencies, civilian broadcasts, diplomatic channels, and even commercial networks. There was no way to ignore it or block it. Someone had hijacked every major communication system in Council space at the same time. The message was simple and direct. It was titled Earth's Accounting. Fleet Admiral Amy Chen appeared on screens across the galaxy. She stood on the bridge of a massive warship, her uniform crisp and her expression serious. Behind her, holographic displays showed star maps, ship formations, and military data. The council members watching had never seen a human military vessel before. Now they were seeing humanity's flagship. "Greetings to the Galactic Council," Amy began, her voice calm and measured. "My name is Fleet Admiral Amy Chen of the Earth Defense Fleet. For 147 years, Earth has observed your civilizations from a distance. We have watched your politics, studied your technologies, and learned your ways. You believed we were silent out of fear or ignorance. You were wrong." The camera pulled back, showing more of the bridge. Officers worked at various stations, all human, all focused on their tasks. The ship itself was enormous, clearly visible through the bridge windows. Its design was unlike anything in the Council's databases. 24 hours ago, Ambassador Chris Bennett was humiliated before your Grand Assembly. He was mocked, insulted, and dismissed. His concerns for Earth's sovereignty were treated as a joke. Councillor Vrek suggested that humans are not intelligent enough for civilized discourse. Councillor Shara questioned our contribution to galactic society. The Council as a whole made it clear that they view Earth as primitive and irrelevant. Amy's expression hardened. "We are here to correct that misunderstanding." The display behind her changed, showing fleet formations emerging from faster-than-light travel across dozens of systems. Warship after warship appeared, organized into precise battle groups. The numbers were staggering. Hundreds of vessels, all bearing Earth's insignia, all moving with military precision. "This is the first strike fleet," Amy announced. 17 battle groups comprising 342 warships. These vessels were constructed over the past century in hidden shipyards throughout our solar system and beyond. They represent the largest military force currently deployed in this sector of space. And this is only our first fleet. The camera focused on Amy again. Earth has 6 combat fleets in total, with a combined strength of over 2,000 warships. We have defensive platforms around every human colony and outpost. We have weapon systems that your intelligence services have never seen. We have faster-than-light technology that exceeds anything the Council currently possesses. On screens across the galaxy, Council leaders watched in shocked silence. Some species began emergency meetings. Military commanders pulled up their own fleet positions and compared them to the human formations, now visible throughout their territories. The comparison was not favorable. "You asked what Earth has contributed to galactic civilization," Amy continued. "We have contributed observation, patience, and preparation. While you grew comfortable with your dominance, we were learning. Every diplomatic message you sent, we analyzed. Every technology you used, we studied and improved upon. Every weakness in your defenses, we noted." A new figure appeared beside Amy. Director of Intelligence Jake Morrison stepped into view, carrying a data pad. He looked directly at the camera with an expression that was almost apologetic. "For the Council members watching this broadcast," Jake said, "you should know that we have compiled detailed intelligence reports on each of your civilizations. We know your military capabilities down to the individual ship class. We know your economic structures, your trade dependencies, and your resource vulnerabilities. We know the locations of your classified research facilities, your secret military bases, and your hidden weapons programs." The displays behind them began showing classified information from each Council species. Ship schematics that were supposed to be top secret, military deployment schedules, resource flowcharts showing economic weak points, even recordings of classified Council meetings that were supposed to be secure. "We know about the Tornak hegemony's illegal mining operations in protected systems," Jake continued, reading from his datapad. "We know about the Pelthic Union's secret weapons development program that violates 3 different Council treaties. We know about the trade agreements that favor Council members at the expense of smaller civilizations. We know everything you thought was hidden." The camera returned to Admiral Chen. "Earth does not wish for war. We have never sought conflict with the Council or any of its members. But we will not accept being dismissed, insulted, or threatened. You proposed colonizing our solar system as if we had no say in the matter. You mocked our ambassador when he objected. You made it clear that you view humanity as beneath your notice." Amy's voice grew colder. "You made a mistake. You underestimated us. That mistake has consequences." Behind her, tactical displays showed the positions of Earth's fleets relative to Council territories. Every major Council world now had human warships within striking distance. The formations were perfect, positioned to defend or attack as needed. It was a demonstration of military power that left no doubt about Earth's capabilities. "Earth is issuing the following demands," Amy stated. "First, The Galactic Council will formally recognize Earth's sovereignty over all territory within 50 light-years of our home system. This includes every planet, moon, asteroid, and space station currently under human control. There will be no colonization, no mining operations, and no military presence by foreign powers in this space without Earth's explicit permission. She paused, letting that sink in. Second, the Council will issue a formal public apology to Ambassador Chris Bennett and to the people of Earth for the insults delivered during the assembly on Keth Prime. This apology will be broadcast on all official Council channels and will acknowledge that Earth deserves respect as an equal civilization. The tactical displays shifted again, showing empty seats at a council table. Third, Earth will be granted full membership on the Galactic Council with all rights and privileges thereof. We will have an equal vote in council matters. Our representatives will be treated with the same respect afforded to all other council members. The era of treating Earth as an observer or a primitive species ends today. Amy's expression softened slightly, but her voice remained firm. These demands are not negotiable. Earth has prepared for this moment for nearly a century and a half. We have the military strength to enforce these demands if necessary. However, we would prefer a peaceful resolution. The Council has 72 hours to respond with acceptance of all three demands. Jake stepped forward again. To be clear, we are not threatening the Council or its member species. We respect the sovereignty of all civilizations, but Earth's sovereignty must be respected in return. Our fleets are deployed in defensive positions only. We will not fire unless fired upon. But make no mistake, we are prepared to defend ourselves and our interests. The camera pulled back one final time, showing the full bridge of the flagship. The ship's name was visible now on the wall behind Amy. EDS Valiant. It was a name that would soon be known throughout the galaxy. Earth stayed silent for 147 years, Amy said, her voice carrying across light years of space to every corner of Council territory. We watched, we learned, and we prepared. You mistook our silence for weakness. You insulted us when we finally spoke. Now you will learn what humanity really is. She stood straighter, her hands clasped behind her back. We are not primitive. We are not weak. We are not irrelevant. We are Earth, and we demand the respect we deserve. The Council has 72 hours. We hope you choose wisely. The transmission ended. For a moment there was only silence across the galaxy as the implications sank in. Then chaos erupted. Council members scrambled to emergency meetings. Military commanders analyzed the deployment patterns of Earth's fleets and realized how perfectly positioned they were. Intelligence services tried desperately to determine how humans had infiltrated their secure communications. Civilian populations panicked at the sight of unknown warships near their worlds. Counselor Vrek, who had mocked humanity just a day ago, now faced the reality of 3 human battle groups positioned near Tornak space. His military advisors informed him that the human ships were more advanced than anything the Tornak hegemony possessed. A direct conflict would be disastrous. Counselor Shara found herself looking at intelligence reports showing that humans had been intercepting Pelthic communications for decades. Everything she thought was secret, Earth knew. It was humiliating and terrifying in equal measure. Even Counselor Prime Thelvin, the ancient Etherean who had dismissed Earth's concerns, now studied the tactical displays with growing concern. In all his centuries of service, he had never seen such a perfectly executed demonstration of power. Earth had revealed itself in a way that left no room for doubt. They were not a minor civilization. They were a major power that had been hiding in plain sight. On Earth, Admiral Chen watched the reactions flowing in from across the emergency session of the Galactic Council had been going for 6 hours straight, and they were no closer to a decision. Counselor Prime Thelvin looked around the chamber at his fellow council members, seeing fear and anger in equal measure. The humans had given them 72 hours to respond. Already 12 hours had passed. We must respond with force, Counselor Vrek insisted, slamming his fist on the table. This is an act of aggression. They have deployed warships throughout our territories and issued demands like we are their subjects. We cannot show weakness, Counselor Shara snapped back. They have 300 warships deployed right now, and they claim to have 6 fleets total. That means over 2,000 military vessels. How many do we have? And more importantly, what do we actually know about their capabilities? A military advisor, General Torth of the Etherean forces, stepped forward with tactical displays. His face was grim. We have run multiple analysis scenarios. Based on the ships we can observe, human technology appears to be at least 20 to 30 years ahead of ours in several key areas. Their faster-than-light drives are more efficient. Their power signatures suggest shield systems we don't fully understand, and their positioning indicates a level of strategic planning that is frankly impressive. 20 to 30 years? Vrek looked stunned. How is that possible? They only achieved faster-than-light travel 147 years ago. We've had it for over 1,000 years. They learned from us, another counselor said quietly. It was Counselor Petra of the Zalvian Concordat, a species known for their scientific expertise. While we were comfortable with our existing technology, they were studying everything we did. They took our knowledge and improved it. This is what happens when you underestimate innovation born from necessity. Thelvin rubbed his temples. He was old even for his long-lived species, and he had never faced a crisis like this. What are our military options? General Torth looked uncomfortable. Counselor Prime, a direct military confrontation would be extremely costly. Even if we could match their numbers, which would require pulling ships from every member species, their technological advantage would make any battle unpredictable. And that's assuming they've shown us their full capabilities, which I doubt. You doubt? Freck demanded. Sir, they hid an entire military buildup for decades. They infiltrated our communication systems. They know our classified information. Do you really think they've shown us everything they have? I would assume they're holding back significant capabilities as a reserve. The chamber fell silent. It was a sobering thought. What they had seen might just be Earth's opening move, designed to shock and intimidate. The real strength of humanity might be much greater. Counselor Shara pulled up a report on her personal screen. Our intelligence services have been trying to locate these hidden shipyards the humans mentioned. So far, they've found nothing. The Kuiper Belt around Earth's sun is vast and chaotic. Hundreds of facilities could be hidden there, and we would never know. What about their observation posts? Another counselor asked. They claim to have been watching us for decades. Where are these posts? We don't know, an intelligence officer admitted, stepping forward. We've been scanning every system near Earth for the past few hours. We've found some signals that might be human, but nothing conclusive. They're either very well hidden or using technology we can't detect. Freck's anger was clear on his reptilian face. This is unacceptable. We are the Galactic Council. We set the rules. We decide who has power and who doesn't. We cannot let a single species dictate terms to us. They're not dictating terms to us, Thelvin said tiredly. They're demanding respect. There's a difference. Respect? Vrek stood up, his voice rising. They're threatening us. They've deployed warships throughout our space without permission. They've violated every diplomatic protocol. And you want to give them respect? They deployed ships in response to us proposing to colonize their home system, Petra pointed out. A proposal made without consulting them, I might add. A proposal that treated their sovereignty as meaningless. Because they never claimed that territory formally, Vrek argued. They sat in their single star system doing nothing while the rest of the galaxy moved forward. They have no right to suddenly demand recognition now. Shara looked at Vrek with something like pity. Counselor, I believe you're missing the point. Whether they have the right or not is irrelevant. They have the capability, they have the strength, and they have made it very clear they will use that strength if necessary. At that moment, another alert came through. An aide rushed to Thelvin's side and whispered urgently. The Counselor Prime's expression grew even more concerned. What is it? Several counselors asked at once. Thelvan stood slowly. A human vessel has just performed a series of faster-than-light jumps through Council space. It appeared near the Tornak homeworld, then jumped to Pelthic territory, then to Etherian space, and finally to 3 of our primary communication hubs. At each location, it disabled defensive satellites and monitoring stations, then jumped away before our forces could respond. The stations have all been reactivated now with a message, "You never saw us coming." The chamber erupted in shocked conversation. Counselor Vrek looked like he might be sick. The Tornak homeworld was supposed to be one of the most heavily defended locations in Council space. This was the EDS Pathfinder, an intelligence officer reported, pulling up data. A reconnaissance vessel, according to our brief analysis. It demonstrated faster-than-light precision that our navigators say should be impossible. The jumps were calculated and executed with a margin of error smaller than anything we can achieve. They're showing off, Petra said. making it clear that their fleets aren't just powerful. They're also capable of striking anywhere they want, whenever they want. Another aide approached, this time bringing information to Shara. She read it quickly, her expression darkening. Our intelligence services have completed their analysis of the data the humans broadcast. Everything they showed about our classified programs is accurate. They know about projects that only a handful of people in my government are aware of. They have infiltrated our communications at the highest levels. How? Vrek demanded. How did they do this? We don't know, Shara admitted. Our security experts are analyzing their methods now, but it appears they've had access to our networks for years, possibly decades. Everything we thought was secret they knew about. A new figure entered the chamber. It was Sophie Clark, one of Earth's intelligence directors. Her image appeared on a holographic communicator, transmitted from somewhere in human space. She looked calm and professional. Counselors, Sophie said, her voice carrying through the chamber. I hope I'm not interrupting. I wanted to provide some additional information for your deliberations. This is a closed council session, Rex said angrily. How did you access this channel? Sophie smiled slightly. The same way we've accessed many of your channels over the past century. Your security systems have gaps, Counselor. We found them and used them. But that's not why I'm here. She gestured and new information appeared on the council's displays. We want you to understand something important. Earth does not wish to dominate the galaxy. We don't want to conquer your worlds or destroy your civilizations. What happened in the Grand Assembly was a wake-up call for us. We realized that silence was being mistaken for weakness, and weakness invites aggression. So you deployed warships throughout our territories, Shara said. That seems rather aggressive itself. Defensive positioning, Sophie corrected. Our fleets are positioned to protect our interests and demonstrate our capabilities, but they are not positioned to attack. If you analyze the formations carefully, you'll see they're optimized for defense and rapid response, not offensive strikes. Thelvan studied the displays. She was right. The human fleets were positioned in ways that made attacking difficult, but defending easy. It was a subtle difference, but an important one. What do you really want? Thelvan asked. Sophie's expression became serious. Counselor Prime, we want what every civilization wants. Recognition, respect. A voice in decisions that affect our future. For nearly 150 years, we watched the Council make rules and decisions without considering species like us. Smaller civilizations, newer civilizations. Species that didn't have the power to demand a seat at your table. You have power now, Petra observed. Yes, we do, Sophie agreed. And we're using that power to demand change, not just for Earth, but for every civilization that has been overlooked or dismissed by the Council. The galaxy is bigger than 12 species. It's time your governing structure reflected that reality. Vrek started to object, but Thelvan held up a hand for silence. What happens if we refuse your demands? Sophie's expression didn't change. Then Earth will withdraw into isolation again. But this time, we'll take our observation posts, our intelligence network, and our military fleets with us. We'll fortify our claimed territory and defend it against any incursion. We'll also make all the classified information we've gathered available to smaller civilizations that have been exploited by council members. Several counselors looked alarmed at that. The thought of their secrets. 70 hours after Earth issued its ultimatum, Counselor Prime Thelvan stood before the holographic transmitters in the Grand Assembly Hall. Every major news network in council space was broadcasting this moment. Billions of beings across dozens of species waited to hear what the Galactic Council would say in response to humanity's demands. Thelvan looked older than his many centuries. The past 3 days had been exhausting, filled with debates, arguments, and difficult decisions. But they had reached a conclusion, and now he had to deliver it to the galaxy. People of the Galactic Council, Thelvan began, his voice steady despite his fatigue. 3 days ago, Earth deployed military forces throughout our territories and issued demands to this council. These demands were unprecedented in the history of our alliance. No species has ever approached us with such a show of force while simultaneously requesting membership. He paused, letting his words settle. After careful deliberation, consultation with our member governments and analysis of all available information, the Galactic Council has reached a decision. Across the galaxy, people held their breath. On Earth, in the war room beneath command headquarters, Admiral Amy Chen stood with President Linda Foster and the rest of the leadership team. Their fleets remained in position, ready for whatever came next. The Council formally recognizes Earth's sovereignty over all territory within 50 light-years of their home system, Thelvan announced. This territory is to be considered under exclusive human jurisdiction. No Council member may conduct any operations within this space without explicit permission from Earth's government. There were murmurs from the assembled councilors behind him, but Thelvan continued. Furthermore, this council offers a formal apology to Ambassador Chris Bennett and to the people of Earth. The treatment Ambassador Bennett received during his observation of our assembly was disrespectful and unworthy of this institution. The comments made by council members, including suggestions that humanity lacks intelligence or civilization, were inappropriate and incorrect. Breck sat in his chair looking like he had swallowed something bitter, but he said nothing. The vote had been clear. Even the Tornak hegemony had eventually agreed that confrontation with Earth was not worth the cost. Finally, Thelvan said, the Galactic Council extends an invitation to Earth for full membership with all rights and privileges thereof. However, this membership comes with conditions that represent a restructuring of how this council operates. This was the part that had taken the longest to negotiate. Earth had not simply demanded a seat at the table. They had demanded that the table itself be rebuilt. Effective immediately, the Galactic Council will expand its membership, Thelvan announced. We will open applications from any civilization that meets basic criteria of technological development and peaceful intent. The era of a closed council of 12 species ends today. The galaxy has many voices and they all deserve to be heard. On Earth, President Foster smiled. This was exactly what they had wanted. Not just membership for humanity, but a fundamental change in how galactic civilization operated. Earth's representative to the Council will be Fleet Admiral Amy Chen, Thelvan continued. She will assume her seat immediately with full voting rights. We look forward to working with humanity to build a more inclusive and equitable galactic community. The transmission ended. For a moment there was silence. Then across Earth celebrations erupted. They had done it. Humanity had demanded respect and the galaxy had given it, but Amy Chen was not celebrating yet. She had work to do. 2 weeks later, Admiral Chen walked into the Grand Assembly Hall on Keth Prime. This time she was not sitting in the observer section. She walked directly to the council floor where a new seat had been added to the circle. The seat for Earth. She wore her military uniform, a deliberate choice. She wanted everyone to remember how Earth had earned this seat, not by asking politely, but by demonstrating strength and resolve. Councilor Prime Thelvan greeted her formally. Admiral Chen, welcome to the Galactic Council. We are pleased to have Earth join our ranks. Thank you, Councilor Prime, Amy replied. She took her seat, looking around at the other councilors. Some of them looked uncomfortable. Others seemed genuinely interested in working with humanity. Breck avoided her eyes entirely. The first order of business was restructuring council operations. Amy had come prepared with proposals that had been developed by Earth's diplomatic teams over the past weeks. The council has operated as a closed system for too long, Amy began when it was her turn to speak. 12 species making decisions for hundreds of civilizations. That system has created inequalities and resentments throughout the galaxy. Earth proposes a new structure. She activated her data pad and information appeared on the chamber's displays. We suggest creating a tiered membership system. Full council members like ourselves maintain voting rights on major decisions. Associate members representing smaller civilizations have voice rights and can vote on matters affecting their regions. Observer species can attend sessions and provide input without voting rights. Councilor Petra looked interested. This would significantly expand the council's size. Yes, Amy agreed. But it would also make the council more representative of galactic civilization as a whole. No more making decisions about territorial expansion without consulting the species who live in those territories. No more trade agreements that benefit a few while exploiting many. This will make decision-making slower, Breck objected. It will make decision-making more legitimate, Amy countered. Speed is worthless if your decisions create resentment and resistance. Better to take time and build consensus than to impose rules that people resist. The debate continued for hours, but Amy had expected that. Change was always difficult, especially for those who benefited from the old system. But Earth had leverage now. Their fleets, Their intelligence network and their demonstrated capabilities meant the Council had to listen to their proposals. Meanwhile, throughout the galaxy, things were changing rapidly. Katie Sullivan, Earth's new diplomatic liaison, was meeting with representatives from smaller civilizations that had long been marginalized by the Council. She offered them something they had never had before, a powerful ally willing to stand up to the established order. Earth remembers what it's like to be dismissed. Katie told a delegation from the Corthan system, a small civilization that had been trying to join the Council for decades. We won't forget that, and we won't let others experience what we did. The Corthans looked at her with something like hope. Will you support our membership application? Absolutely, Katie promised. And not just yours. We're going to push for the Council to admit at least 20 new member civilizations within the next year. The galaxy is changing, and it's about time. Back on Earth, Ambassador Chris Bennett had returned to his work with renewed purpose. He was no longer the dismissed observer who had been mocked in the Grand Assembly. He was now a respected diplomat whose experience had sparked a galactic revolution. How does it feel? Emma Rodriguez asked him one day as they reviewed the latest diplomatic reports. Knowing that your humiliation led to all this? Chris thought about it. It feels like it was worth it. I was angry, yes. Humiliated, definitely. But if that's what it took to wake Earth up, to make us finally show the galaxy what we're capable of, then I'd do it again. Sam Parker, who had been with Chris during that fateful assembly, nodded in agreement. The Council learned an important lesson. Never underestimate the quiet ones. Earth's fleets remained deployed, but their mission had changed. Instead of a show of force, they now provided security for smaller civilizations that had been preyed upon by pirates and aggressive species. Human ships patrolled trade routes, protected border systems, and responded to distress calls. The galaxy was learning that Earth's military power came with a sense of responsibility. Humanity did not use their strength to dominate, but to protect and maintain order. 6 months after Earth joined the Council, the first wave of new members was inducted. 23 civilizations received full or associate membership, including the Corthans. The Grand Assembly Hall had to be expanded to accommodate all the new seats. Admiral Chen sat through the induction ceremony with satisfaction. This was what Earth had fought for. Not dominance, but equality. Not conquest, but respect. Counselor Prime Thelvin approached her after the ceremony. I must admit, Admiral, I underestimated your species. We all did. I know, Amy replied, and that was our advantage. But I hope we can move past that now. Earth doesn't want to be your enemy, Counselor. We want to be your partner in building something better. Thelvin studied her for a moment, then nodded. I believe you, and I think many others are beginning to believe it too. You could have used your military superiority to dominate the Council. Instead, you used it to open doors for others. Because that's who we are, Amy said simply. Earth stayed silent for so long because we were learning what kind of galaxy this is. We learned that power without purpose is meaningless. We learned that respect must be earned and maintained, and we learned that the strong have a responsibility to protect the weak. Within a year, the Galactic Council was almost unrecognizable from what it had been. Over 50 civilizations now had some form of representation. Trade agreements were being renegotiated to be more equitable. To